Hello everybody, Domestic Fox here with another review video, and today we'll be reviewing this guy. This is the ever popular, so sweet Para 3, Spyderco Para 3. I got quite a few things to say about this knife, but first of all, I just want to go through the specs, give you a rundown of everything about it, and then I'm going to talk about some of my personal opinions about this knife. And this knife is an extremely popular knife, so I'm not sure if anyone will be really watching this review because this has been out for a long time, and there's a lot more popular YouTubers out there that reviewed this knife. But if you somehow managed to find my video because YouTube actually threw me a bone and recommended my channel to you, uh, and you actually found me interesting enough to click on, I much appreciate that so much that you chose me. But yeah, let's get right into it. The length on this guy. Overall length, coming in about 7.25. Approximately, a little lower. Blade length coming in at 3 inches, I would say, but your cutting edge is about. It's coming in a little bit lower than. Hold on, brain block 2 3/4. So yeah, so not a crazy amount of cutting edge to blade ratio, but not bad, not terrible. Weight on this guy. Why does everything on mine get so dusty all the time? All right. Did it? Are you on? There you are. And we are on ounces. This guy's coming in at 3.39 ounces. So this guy's very light. This guy's it's definitely not going to be weighing you down too bad, if at all. It's like barely anything. Size comparisons, I'll start off with. Actually, let's start off with just its big brother. The paramilitary, or the PM2. Booyah. As you can see, this guy's actually substantially different than this guy, and actually quite a few differences. This is the Para 3, so it's actually quite. It's actually its own knife compared to this guy because the handle is actually designed differently. They didn't just chop the blade down and chop the handle down. They actually redesigned quite a few aspects of it. If you look at the blade shapes, they look quite similar, but actually are pretty different in their own way. It's like, yeah, they look similar, but this one's actually a lot thinner. This one goes, I mean, it is shorter, so it does make it look a little stubbier, but this one actually is a little bit wider at the tip. So they didn't just, shrink this. It actually kind of redesigned that a little bit. The handle is quite similar, but also different in its own way. So it's actually pretty cool. Now this is the one in crew rear with the brown micarta, so it's not as accurate because the original PM2 with the G10 has countersunk liners. This one does not. The liners are exposed and is just sandwiched by the micarta. So not completely accurate comparison, but close enough. Now let's get into the other stuff because I'm getting off topic. Mini Bugout. CF Bugout. As you can see, this guy is actually quite similar to the Bugout in length, but the Bugout would have a little bit more blade to play with. So keep that in mind if you want to choose between the Para 3 and the Bugout. The Bugout has a little bit more blade to play with, but the handles are quite similar. This guy actually has a little bit of a longer handle. This guy is definitely bigger than the mini Bugout by a little bit. Next, CGRB felt bar full sized, CGRB felt bar small. So this guy's running, coming in pretty close to the small one. Yeah, I would say more online with the small one than the full size feldspar. Next, cold steel Spyderco XL and cold steel Spyderco medium. The blade is much longer on the medium Spyderco, and the handle is obviously longer on this guy. This guy's the entirety of the blade is almost the length of the Spyderco's blade, and yeah, so do with that information what you will. This size comparison is always pointless, but I just like to do it because it's funny. And that's it for the size comparisons. Let's go with height on this guy. I usually do the height with the pair of 3, so let's go with the Bugout. As you can see, this guy is going to be rating in your pocket a little bit. Got tape on this guy. Jeez. Do I ever clean my knives? Yes, I do. I swear I do. Okay. Right there. I've been using the Bugout a lot lately, so. Size comparison. So as you can see, the pair of 3 is going to be running higher than the Bugout. So if you use the Bugout, this guy will be running a little higher in your pocket. Let's put it up against the PM2. So as you can see, that's how it's going to be a little bit different in your pocket. Pretty similar. Just, a little bit more back here, a little bit of that being knocked down. So, yeah. Let's do one more with the feldspar just so you can kind of get an idea of it. So yeah, this guy does run high in your pocket. So this guy has a lot more height to work with. Width on this guy, as you can see, this guy is actually quite thick. Don't really have many Spydercos to compare with, so if you're a Spyderco person and you want to compare this to other Spyderco knives, I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of different Spyderco knives. I only have the Tenacious and two pair of 3s and 3 PM2s. So yeah, and all my PM2s are either special versions or I customize the scales so they're not 100% accurate to the original. Alright. But yeah, so there you go. It's actually quite thicker in width to other knives, and then that pocket clip does protrude out quite a bit. Not crazy amount, same as most pocket clips, but just the way how it's designed makes it look kind of protrudy. If that's even a word. Alright. Blade thickness on this guy. Get my calipers. Alright. These guys turn on at just like the slightest just movement. So I'm always afraid of wasting the battery on this thing, so I gotta be really careful when I put it away. Alright, blade thickness. This guy is 0.12 inches. Let's try on the thinnest spot, which is down here. If you can see that. About 0.04 or 0.03. So that is a very thin edge. Price on this guy. Now this is the old one with right there. This is an older model with the CPM S30V. I believe they make these in S35, S45 VN now. So the price has went up. If you look back about 5 years ago, give or take, this knife was like, I think it was like 120, 130, which is a pretty good price. This guy went up about $30 in the past 5 years. So this guy is now coming in on Blade HQ at 161. So it's $161.70. So that's actually kind of a crazy, markup. So it's actually pretty interesting. I mean, in my personal opinion, am I mad about that price? No. I can spend $160 on this guy and rest well. I do not care about that price at all. This guy is definitely worth every penny, every little cent. I am not upset with that price. It's just interesting to see how much this knife has went up in 5 years. It went up about $30, give or take. So it's like, what increased that price? Is it the upgraded steel? Is it popularity, inflation? So maybe all those factors contributed to that price increase. But it's just kind of an interesting thing to look at on how things change over time and how prices do increase because it's like when I shop knives, I'm like, oh yeah, there's the price, that whatever. But if you look back on a very popular knife, you will always see that that knife has risen in price. And there's always a bunch of factors that play in, and sometimes I do think it is companies just going like, oh, this knife is popular. Let's make some extra dosh. No one will really notice if we increase the price every now and then. But it's just interesting. But I'm not mad at that at all. This is definitely worth the money. And if they want to increase the price, 160 is still fine as long as I'm not paying 200. And especially for the upgraded steel, the S45 VN, you get what? You get 15 extra V's, and then you get an N in there as well, so that's nice. I still need to do a little bit more research on S45 VN. I know it's a harder steel, and it's basically the upgrade to S35VN, which S35VN is not one of my top favorite steels. It is a good steel, and if I have a knife with it, if I see a knife with it, I'm like, oh, good. All right, that's a nice steel. I'm fine with that, but it's not one of my go-to steels. I'm not the biggest fan of S30V and S45VN. Maybe I need to use it more. Maybe I would end up, liking it more. But every time I sharpen S35VN, I'm not talking about this one. This one's S30V, but when I sharpened S35VN, it takes a gritty edge, and it's just kind of not the most pleasant to work with when I'm using it. It's like I try to get it sharp. I'm like, it feels sharp, but it feels just gritty. It's just like unlike things like 20CV, S110V, and S90V. That just glide through things when you cut, and when you sharpen them up, yeah, they might take a little bit longer, but when you do sharpen them up, it feels like they take a better edge. Just in my personal, regular EDC guy, day-to-day use and sharpening maintenance. That's just my opinion. Um, but yeah, it's a fine steel, and I have no problem with it. But I definitely want to use S45VN when I get one, which I do have one on my PM2. Um, one of my PM2s. I just want to use it a little bit more to kind of get a better, more knowledge of it, because I don't like to judge steels by just exactly what other people are saying. I like to do a lot of research on steels before I actually, go in depth about them, because there's a lot of steels out there, and it's hard to, accurately assess them. Where was I? Oh yes, I was on price before I went on my price rant. You can get this one, I think, with the was it the black coating, the DLC. I think it was the DLC coating on the Spyderco website. I couldn't find the exact regular, just stonewash finish, black G10. The all blacked out version was like $244, which is a lot of money. If that is true, that is a lot of money for this guy. I mean, it's still a really good knife, but it's just like that price just makes you cringe a little bit. Definitely would pay that money and be like still happy with it, but I'm just like, dang, nah. A nearly $300 knife, I need a lot. Need a lot more for a nearly $300 knife. But yeah. And then on Amazon, you can get this guy for the same price as Blade HQ, which is $161.70, and the same on Knife Center. So definitely a good price, and you can definitely find this guy in a lot of places. You'll definitely find this guy available pretty much in every retailer, because this guy is like being super mass produced. It's all over the place. Everyone wants one. Everyone has one. So yeah, this guy's definitely usually, pretty regularly available. I've barely ever seen this guy out of stock on retailers. You can also get this on DLT Trading. I forgot to check the price on DLT Trading, but I am assuming it's somewhere around the same as Blade HQ and stuff like that. Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I forgot about the cut test. Knew I was forgetting something. So I've never sharpened this knife, and I've used it a little bit. It's one of my most carried knives, but every time I carry it, I don't ever have a really big reason to use it. So most of the time, it's just opening up boxes, and I think occasionally I broken down cardboard with it. So still factory edge. So see how it's held up. Yeah, not bad. I can feel that it definitely needs a little bit of a touch up, but this is still workable. This is still a usable edge. That is not bad at all. So after everything I put it through, just a little bit of cardboard and cutting boxes, this is still really good. That was bad edge alignment. Yeah. So, still a really good edge. Then, let's see. The handle is G10, and it's got a nice clip point, flat grind. Now this is a full flat grind, so the the grind right here goes all the way to the spine of the blade, so you have only two two bevels. So you got your cutting edge bevel, and then you got your grind right here, which is just the blade, which is really nice. It allows for very minimal material that you have to pass through whatever you're cutting, and it makes for an excellent slicing tool. This guy is fantastic for slicing, and it came out of the box with a really nice edge, very sharp. And then the handle is G10. They do have other models out there with different color G10, and there's also, like, I think micarta. You can get this guy, suited up with fancy scales. If you go to like Flightanium and stuff like that, there's plenty of scales for anybody that that wants to dress up their um, Para 3. That's one of the greatest things about this knife is it's just extremely customizable. There is so much you could do with this knife. On Blade HQ, they have a titanium hardware, so you can take out these screws. You can anodize your titanium hardware and then put that in. Give your Para 3 a little bit of character. There's plenty of pocket clips out there if you can manage to find one. They're always out of stock whenever I'm looking for one. And then there's different, like lanyard tubes. I believe there's like plugs, so you just plug that in. You just take this lanyard out and you just put in one that has just like a little design on it. It's pretty cool. And that's, yeah, then you could get some in different, there's sprint runs of this guy with different steels, different handle materials and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. This guy is also using, now I'm going to start getting into some of my personal opinions and stuff like that. This guy is also using the compression lock, which is a fantastic locking mechanism if you're new to the compression lock. It's basically like a reverse liner lock. So instead of the liner being over here, it's on the back. And it has a piece of steel that goes right into the face of the tang. So as you can see right there, it just, there you go. See like that? It just nests itself right in there, in that little cutout. It is extremely, if I could get the camera to focus, there you go. It is extremely strong. Definitely a very ingenious way of, ingenious locking mechanism. Keeps your hands out of the way of the blade. So if somebody's a little nervous about, doing this, having to close their knife, or, having the back lock, like a triad lock, those are really good, really strong knives, but sometimes they can be a little nerve-wracking when you're trying to press down on this and close it. Those things can be finger guillotine. So if you're somebody that's a little nervous of a triad lock because you have to press down like this and hold the blade like that, and you're afraid of that that spring, making that blade come clashing down, this is definitely a good option because you can keep your hands completely out of the way and with ease just push that lock out of the way and it comes falling down. You can also tighten the pivot to make it kind of slowly go down, have a control fall. When I got this out of the box, it was a little bit tighter, so I did loosen the pivot to make it drop shut, and that did add up for some blade play, just a tad bit. yeah, just a little bit of blade play, you know, side to side, up and down is completely fine. But side to side, just a tad bit. So just keep that in mind when you are loosening up those pivots. If you want to drop shut, you might get a little bit of blade play, but it's really not that big of a deal in my opinion. Uh, yeah, and then the fit and finish on this guy is actually really nice. The centering was really good. I might have messed it up with fidgeting with that pivot, but otherwise good. Ergos on this guy, extremely comfortable. I love the feeling of these, the way how they do these handles, and that 50-50 choil right there, where 50% of it is the blade and 50% of it is the handle. It's just extremely comfortable and just a fantastic design option, especially with this thumb ramp up here. It's extremely comfortable to hold and use this knife. You have extremely good control, just excellent control, excellent feel, just everything about it, all the contouring, all just the way how they did this G10, you know, all these little, you know, grooves and everything about it, just the way it's shaped. It's extremely comfortable. The only problem is this pocket clip. It creates a little hot spot right here. You can feel that right there. That's the only thing that does not make this thing 100% ergonomically friendly. That's the only thing. But otherwise, it's fine. You might ignore that when you're using it, and if you're not using this for an extended period of time, it's not going to hurt you. But you can definitely feel that if you know, hold it like this, maybe less so. But once you choke up, you can feel that digging in right there, and it's not really too big of a deal, but it's definitely there and it's definitely noticeable. But it's worth looking past because of just how comfortable these handles are. So comfortable, just great. And then actuating this guy is fantastic. You can flick it out like that. You can control it like that. You can flick it out with your middle finger. You can do the Spidey drop, which is just fantastic. Love that. The compression lock is extremely fidgety. It's just super fun to play with, and just doing the Spidey flick is so fun. Just opening it up is extremely easy. You can access this hole fantastically, and it's just perfectly tuned in. So then you get that tension that you build up, you know, the energy that you build up by putting tension on that detent, and it just flies out. It feels fantastic whenever you deploy this knife. It is just beautiful, and I love that feel of deploying this knife. It feels really good. It doesn't have a sluggish or weak detent, and it doesn't have an overly tight detent where it feels like you have to put an excessive amount of force to deploy it. The only issue I have is compared to like the Bugout or something like that, is that when you drop it in, you have to time it really right to not get that bounce. A little too early, and you get that lag, and then a little too late, you get that bounce where it bounces out, and then you have to push it in anyway. That's the only problem with the compression lock, is that it gives you that bounce. You have to really think about, you know, timing to get that thing to close completely proper. So that's the only problem with it. But otherwise, it's not that big of a deal. If you know, train your brain just to close it like that every time, it's not that big of a deal. And it's extreme. There's just so much good with the compression lock to overlook the bounce. Because see, like when you have the Bugout, you sometimes get that bounce, but it's not a really good comparison. If you get, see right there, you can definitely get this guy in and out a little bit faster. That's when you can also do the Spidey, you know, the reverse flick. It's just a little bit easier with the axis lock on how it just absorbs the knife in. You still get that bounce, and you still sometimes can lag it out, but not as much as the compression lock. That's the only difference, is the compression lock, it's more often than not, you're going to either lag it out or get that bounce. So that's the only problem. The pocket clip, you would probably definitely want to switch out this pocket clip. It is long. It goes all the way over here. So it comes right there, and it runs really shallow. You're going to have a lot of knives sticking out of your pocket. For such a small knife, it's sticking out, and they prioritize this lanyard lube. I have no problem with lanyards. I use them sometimes, not often enough to really like it. Yeah, it's like, eh. They could have done. They didn't really have to put that there, and I would be just fine. They should have put this up here. That would have been better. Make it run a little bit less shallow, because dang. And the just pocket clip just goes really low down. They should have made this thing a little bit shorter. That probably would have been better. So definitely probably going to switch out this pocket clip with something else. The and it is a 4-way, so you can, do this. You can do it tip down, left-handed carry, right-handed carry. Yeah, so plenty of options, so anybody can carry this knife and carry it comfortably to the way how they want it. But yeah, minimal hardware, which is kind of cool compared to the PM2. You have one less screw to worry about, like that. Now, having said that, there is still quite a bit of hardware to worry about on this knife. It's just got a lot of things in it. And I've disassembled the PM2. I've never disassembled the Para 3, but they're kind of similar, so I'm going to just judge this one on the PM2. I will disassemble this one eventually in the future, or at least a Para 3. But from the Para 2, this disassembly on these guys, I'm going to assume it's the same as the PM2. Disassembling the PM2 was horrible. It is extremely obnoxious and just hard process. It's worth it putting on new scales. It's fun, but it's just a hard and annoying process. You have to take all these screws out, spread it like this because it is clamped down. This thing flares out at the ends. So when they pressed it down, it actually flares out at the ends. So it's extremely tight in these scales and that liner. So you have to take out all these screws, spread these apart, take out your blade, and then you have to try to spread the liner and the scale from each other. Jimmy a screwdriver in there, and then bring that screwdriver all the way down. Just drive it all the way down. When take that screwdriver and place it in like this, drive it between those scales and bring it all the way down, and just keep applying pressure until it pops off the scale and liner. You might bend your liner, so you just got to be careful of that. I haven't had a scale break on me yet. This G10 is actually quite tough. And then you got to do the same thing on the other side, and then reassembling this lanyard tube backspacer thing is extremely difficult to get it back into the scales I was using. I had to put it on the table and just press it down really hard, and I don't know if I got it all the way in. It was extremely difficult to work with, and my hands were hurting at the end of putting the new scales on my PM2. So keep that in mind when disassembling this, that it is definitely going to be a challenge in my experience. But otherwise, this is a really good knife. The what was it? G10 out of the box came out very, very rough. It is like sandpaper out of the box. You can literally just sand things with the G10. But over time, don't let that discourage you. Over time, this guy, wore in very well. It's no longer sandpaper. It's no longer gritty. It's no longer, rough. It's actually very smooth with enough texturing to give you grip when you hold it. And that's one of the great things about this G10 is that it starts out very gritty, very rough, and then it just works its way in and just becomes very comfortable and great. So that's one of the other things that I found interesting, but they all work out very well. And yeah, so I think I rambled on long enough. I covered everything that I wanted to say. The screws I got, so far I've been pretty lucky not to strip them. I'm not sure how it's going to be like on the Para 3 when I disassemble it. I know that they used I think it was red Loctite, but I'm not sure if they stopped using that on the Para 3. So hopefully they stopped using red Loctite because that would be quite horrible to disassemble. But yeah, oh, and I almost forgot. This is also made in the USA, which is cool. Golden, Colorado. So yeah, they do really good. They have really good quality on their products in that factory. So that's really good. And so far, I haven't had too much of an issue with my edges on the PM2 and the Para 3. All stay sharp really long. So that means they're doing the right thing with the heat treat. And definitely love this knife. I carry this knife and its cousin, which is the one with the S110V and the blue scales. I carry that one a lot because S110V is a perfect steel for this knife. And I am willing to pay $200 for that. So yeah, this is a fantastic knife, worth every penny. extremely comfortable. It's just like the PM2, but if you want something a little, sorry, it's quite similar to the PM2. I won't say just like, it's a little different. It's quite similar to the PM2, but if you want something a little bit smaller, this is the guy to go for. If you thought the PM2 was big or long, this is definitely a good option to look into. A fantastic knife from Spyderco, one of my favorites and all-time, most carried. Love it. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you might like more knife and EDC related content, check out my other videos. Remember to subscribe because I post every Saturday and every other Sunday. There'll be more knives and more videos in the future. Thank you so much for watching and have a fantastic day. Bye.